Every night, millions of people do the same thing alone in the dark with a glowing screen in their hand. They call it pleasure. They tell themselves it's normal, just a release, just lust. But what if it's not lust at all? What if it's something far more dangerous? A silent scream from the part of you you've been trying to avoid your entire life. The phone is heavy. Your heart is numb. You scroll, you fantasize, you chase, but nothing fills the void. And deep down in that quiet ache you never speak about, you know it. This isn't about sex. This is about your shadow. This is about the part of your soul that's starving and has been calling out through desire every night in secret. Carl Jung saw this long before the rest of the world caught on. He warned us, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. So the question is, are you ready to finally face yours? This is exactly what Carl Jung's shadow work invites us to do, to look beyond surface behaviors and into the soul's deeper cries for healing. You tell yourself a story about what's happening. You label it lust. You rationalize it as a simple release, a biological need. You whisper to yourself that it's totally normal, that everyone does it. Just one more scroll, one more fleeting fantasy, another body to conjure in your mind's eye. But if you allowed yourself just a sliver of genuine honesty, a radical honesty with your own heart, you would feel it too. That hollow ache, not just in the quiet aftermath, but even in the midst of the chase. While you're actively pursuing that surge, you convince yourself it's desire pure and simple. Yet deep down you sense it's not. It's a hunger, yes, but a hunger for something infinitely deeper than skin. It's a quiet, unnamed grief for something you can't quite articulate. Carl Jung, that pioneering explorer of the human psyche, understood this long before mainstream psychology dared to venture into these spiritual waters. He famously observed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And this relentless chasing, this craving, this consuming that we so often label as lust, it's rarely about pleasure at its core. It's fundamentally an escape from the dull ache of boredom, an escape from unacknowledged pain, an escape from the crushing weight of loneliness. Most profoundly, it's an escape from the echoing silence inside your own heart. You might tell yourself in that moment that you want her, but if you peel back the layers, what you truly crave is to feel profoundly alive, to feel held, to feel seen, to feel something, anything, beneath the polished surface of a life that can often feel like a performance. Yet instead of turning inward towards that silent yearning, you pivot outward. You chase the body, the image, the fleeting digital connection, the rush of dopamine that vanishes as quickly as it arrived. And in that moment the chase ends, you are left precisely where you began, with the same gnawing void, the same unsettling silence, the same untouched, unchanged self. You see, lust itself isn't the enemy. It is in a profound sense a symptom. It's a distress signal from your soul, desperately trying to get your attention. Because beneath that intense craving lies something far more fundamental: disconnection. You feel disconnected from your own physical body. You feel disconnected from a sense of deeper purpose. You feel disconnected from the vast, complex landscape of your own emotions. In essence, you feel disconnected from you, and so you reach for the easiest, most readily available substitute: the illusion of closeness, the illusion of control, the illusion of being wanted. Jung would look at this pattern and say, this is the shadow at work. It's the part of you that perhaps was never truly loved or met in the way it needed to be, now frantically searching for that missing connection in the wrong places through fragmented means. And it's critical to understand this isn't solely about sex. It's about all the intricate, subtle ways we run. The compulsive scrolling, the urgent texting, the late-night porn that feels like a necessary release, the hollow, meaningless conversations that somehow manage to feel almost intimate, the endless mental replay of someone who once, even just for a moment, made you feel desired. What you're really doing in these moments is fiercely avoiding the profound loneliness that has made a home beneath your skin. Because to sit with that loneliness, to truly feel it in its raw intensity, is to confront the aching truth. You don't just want a release. You are yearning for rescue. Rescue from your own isolation. Rescue from the suffocating numbness. Rescue from the buried legitimate needs that you were perhaps never given permission to feel or express. Jung witnessed this pattern repeatedly in the individuals who came to him, not necessarily presenting with explicitly sexual problems, but with a deep spiritual hunger that had somehow become disguised as desire. He didn't moralize, he didn't judge. He went deeper because he intuitively knew the surface behavior wasn't the real issue. The true question wasn't, why do I feel lust, but rather, what essential part of myself? What profound longing is this lust trying so desperately to distract me from? And that right there is the crucial question you must be willing to ask yourself now. Because if you don't, you will remain trapped in the cycle. You will keep feeding the craving, but you will never ever touch the underlying wound. You will keep chasing bodies, but you will never feel genuine intimacy. You will keep fantasizing, but you will never feel truly seen. You will keep finishing, but you will never feel fundamentally whole. So let's face the truth that no one else seems to tell you you don't need more pleasure. You need more presence. You don't need another body to connect with. You need to come back into your own body, into your own being. Because the part of you that keeps reaching outward, that compulsively seeks external validation or sensation, is precisely the part of you that was never truly met or integrated within. And that, at its core, is what Carl Jung's shadow work, especially as chronicled in his Red Book, was truly about not power, not control, certainly not just sex, but integration. Not power, not control, certainly not just sex, but integration. The courageous, often painful reunion of all the lost, scattered pieces of the self. The arduous but necessary return to the core of who you are. The bravery required to look directly at your own inner emptiness, and for the first time, not turn and run. So the next time that familiar impulse arises, before you open another app, before you send that text, you know you shouldn't, before you let the craving dictate your actions, pause. And ask yourself with genuine curiosity, is this truly lust? Or is this my deep, unacknowledged loneliness in disguise? And if you were to finally stop the exhausting race of escaping what forgotten part of yourself, might you find quietly waiting inside Carl Jung never dismissed lust as merely a physical urge. To him, it was a potent spiritual signal, a coded message emerging from the depths of the unconscious, a stark warning that the soul had been left starved for far too long. Because when you haven't courageously faced and integrated your inner world, desire doesn't spring from a place of wholeness. It arises from fragmentation. You don't experience this intense, empty lust because you are inherently bad. You experience it because you are fundamentally divided. Jung wrote in the Red Book, in his wrestling with the depths of his own psyche, "I must learn that the dregs of my thought, my dreams, are the speech of my soul." So, when that wave of lust shows up, suddenly urgently, perhaps irrationally focused on a specific person or image, Jung would suggest it's not primarily about the person you're thinking of at all. It's about the part of you that you have lost vital contact with. Here's what he meant specifically regarding men and the inner feminine. In Jungian psychology, the inner feminine principle within a man is called the anima. And when this anima remains unconscious, neglected, or wounded, you lose access to vital aspects of your being. You may struggle to feel your emotions fully. You may not know how to surrender, how to simply be without constantly doing or achieving. You may find it incredibly difficult to love without clinging, attaching, or needing to possess. And so, in its desperate attempt to be seen and integrated, your soul reaches out the only way it knows how, in this state, through projection. You take your own forgotten tenderness, your hidden vulnerability, your undeveloped capacity for warmth and inner light, and you unknowingly place it onto her. Not necessarily because she embodies all those qualities perfectly, but because she in some way reminds you of the essential part of yourself you can no longer consciously access. So when you feel that intense pull, that undeniable lust for her body, for her presence, her softness, you are not actually craving sex in a vacuum. You are at a profound level craving a reunion with your own lost soul. And this is precisely why the cycle hurts so deeply. Because no matter how many times you chase that external image, you can never truly grasp the thing you're yearning for. You can't, because you are chasing yourself, your own missing piece, reflected in someone else's body. And the more disconnected you become from your anima, from your own inner capacity for feeling and connection, the more frantic, desperate, and ultimately emptier your external seeking becomes. You scroll endlessly through images, fantasize about people you barely know, replay fleeting moments that made you feel something, anything, just for a second. And yet, every single time it ends, you feel even more distant from yourself than before you started. Jung suggested this is how the shadow seduces you, not with overt evil, but with a powerful, convincing illusion. You don't see a whole complex person in that moment. You see a screen onto which you project your own unmet needs, your suppressed pain, your forgotten inner warmth. And because you've never integrated these essential parts within your own being, you compulsively try to possess them outside yourself through someone else, through an image. But lust, when it is fundamentally disconnected from genuine love and self-acceptance, is destined to collapse. Because no one else, no matter how wonderful, can possibly carry the immense weight of your unlived emotions. No external body can complete your fragmented, broken sense of identity. No fleeting moment of external pleasure can heal a soul that hasn't been truly felt, truly inhabited, truly loved by you. So what inevitably happens next? You start needing more. More stimulation, more novelty, more intensity, just to feel anything at all. Because now, your soul isn't just craving, it's actively starving. And you mistakenly believe the answer lies in more content, more experiences, more people, more extreme sensations. But all you are truly accomplishing is running faster and faster within a maze that ultimately leads you right back to the inescapable reality of your own inner emptiness. Carl Jung profoundly believed that to break free from this relentless cycle, you must stop asking the superficial question, "Who turns me on?" and begin courageously asking, "What essential part of me have I tragically turned off?" Because when you begin the sacred work of reconnecting with your own deep emotions, listening to your inner dreams and intuition, and honoring your authentic longings, the very energy you once labeled lust begins to transform. It can become sacred. It can become a powerful creative force. It becomes a bridge leading inward rather than a trap that locks you outside yourself. Jung called this process integration, the bringing back into conscious awareness those vital parts of yourself that were cast out often into the unconscious shadow, and that intense energy of lust, that is the raw, untamed fire of your soul desperately trying to get your attention. Not to shame you, not to condemn you, but to simply show you, perhaps with painful clarity, how far you have drifted from the harbor of yourself. You don't just want someone to touch your body. You yearn at a soul level for someone to truly witness your being. You don't just want a physical release. You crave relief from the constant aching burden of feeling unseen, untouched, and unheld, even by your own self. So here lies perhaps the hardest, most challenging truth Jung offers us. Until you are willing to face your own soul to genuinely inhabit your inner world, your deepest desires will remain tragically misdirected. You will keep chasing shadows, mistaking them for substance. You will keep calling it love, even when it feels hollow. You will keep falling into arms that, no matter how welcoming, will never feel like home. Because the home you are so desperately seeking is the sacred inner space within you, the part of yourself you stopped visiting a long, long time ago. So the very next time you feel that familiar wave of craving rise within you, pause. Don't immediately repress it, and absolutely do not blindly act on it. Just pause, and gently, curiously ask that energy, what are you truly trying to show me about myself right now? Because once you begin to learn how to feel that intense energy, that raw impulse, without immediately losing yourself in it, you don't become cold or disconnected. Quite the opposite. You become profoundly clear. And in that newfound clarity, you gain the power to finally choose something far deeper, far more meaningful than the fleeting satisfaction of the craving. You can choose genuine connection, not escape, not performance, not empty fantasy, but authentic presence. And from that foundation of presence comes the kind of deep, abiding love that fragmented lust could never possibly give you. You keep telling yourself this is harmless, just a release, a phase, a simple need. But slowly, subtly, it begins to reshape you from the inside out, not in one dramatic moment, but through tiny, almost invisible fractures in your being. You gradually stop feeling your emotions fully authentically. You start seeing other people not as whole, complex souls, but as fragmented objects of your projection or potential sources of validation. You begin mistaking superficial attention for deep love and momentary stimulation for true intimacy. This, Jung understood, was a deeply concerning consequence. Because lust, when it becomes severed from the anchoring presence of the soul, doesn't merely distort how you perceive others. It begins to fundamentally fracture and break how you see and experience yourself. At first, the changes are small. You might find yourself avoiding genuine eye contact. You steer clear of conversations that require vulnerability or depth. You retreat into fantasy worlds that feel infinitely safer, more controllable than the messy unpredictability of reality. You might smile and perform adequacy in public, but inside you feel a growing numbness. Then it often worsens. You may notice a profound loss of motivation, not just sexually, but across various aspects of your life. You stop writing. You stop building things. You stop creating, expressing that unique spark within you. Because the very fire, the creative energy that was meant to fuel your purpose, your passion, your unique contribution to the world, when indulged mindlessly and without consciousness, that fire is consumed by lust. It becomes your default shortcut to feeling alive, even for a moment. But the devastating cost is the vitality of your soul. Jung believed that every single time you feed a craving mindlessly without bringing consciousness to it, you strengthen the underlying psychological complex, that painful unconscious knot of unmet needs and wounded parts. You reinforce the loop trigger reaction, momentary relief followed by guilt or shame, and then the inevitable repeat. And the more you repeat this cycle, the more deeply ingrained the belief becomes, this is just who I am. This is my fate. But that is not who you are at your core. That is who you became after you stopped feeling truly safe and integrated within your own skin. You weren't born addicted to fragmented images of bodies. You were born with a fundamental sacred craving for connection. You wanted warmth, not just friction. You yearned for love, not empty lust. You sought authentic presence, not superficial performance. But when life in its imperfect reality didn't consistently provide those things in the ways you needed, you understandably turned to fantasy. Because in the realm of fantasy, you hold all the control. You are always wanted. You are always powerful. You are never rejected. But again, here is the profound cost. You gradually stop showing up fully for the messy, beautiful, challenging reality of the real world. You lose the essential capacity to sit patiently in awkward silence, to endure the quiet ache of longing, to bravely attempt to build something meaningful with another human being, to fail vulnerably in front of love, and still find the courage to try again anyway. Because mindless lust teaches you escape. It doesn't teach you courage. It doesn't teach you patience. It doesn't teach you resilience. And so, you get stuck. You keep chasing fleeting highs that can never, ever touch the deeper chambers of your heart. You keep looking for people or images who make you feel just enough to distract you from the painful truth of how disconnected you are from your own being. And perhaps, most tragically of all, you begin to turn that frustration and pain inward. You start to resent yourself. You tell yourself you're weak, that you're fundamentally broken, that you're incapable of finding or sustaining real love. But Jung would gently, firmly counter that narrative. He would say it is not inherent brokenness. It is disconnection. Disconnection from the nourishing power of your own inner feminine, your anima. Disconnection from your soul's innate ability to nurture, to hold space, to feel deeply and vulnerably. You have the fire, the raw energy, but without integration, you lack the warmth, the capacity for genuine connection. You have the desire, but without presence, you lack devotion. Not just to another, but to yourself, to your life's path. And without this crucial inner integration, that intense energy of lust can indeed become a form of violence. Not necessarily expressed outwardly, but directed inward against the self. You betray your own values repeatedly. You make solemn promises to yourself. Never again, you vow, only to find yourself falling back into the exact same loop the very next night. And over time, the cumulative effect is devastating. Your mind becomes scattered, restless, perpetually seeking the next hit. Your heart becomes calloused, guarded, less able to feel or empathize deeply. Your dreams, your aspirations, the very things that once gave your life meaning, become dry, withered. Because nothing in the ordinary world, nothing that once made you feel quietly alive, can compete with the intense, often artificial peak of sensation you have wired into your system. The high is painfully short. The aftermath, the void, is long and enduring. And the worst part, you start needing more stimulation while simultaneously feeling less of anything authentic. Jung had a name for this state: psychic possession. It's when a powerful unconscious complex hijacks your willpower, your agency. When you no longer feel like you are acting, but rather you are being acted through. And in this specific pattern, it is not truly you, your conscious self, who is relentlessly chasing lust. It is your unintegrated shadow, your profound loneliness, your unloved inner child, searching desperately for someone, anyone, to hold that aching wound in the only way it has ever known how to look, through external fixation. And so the cycle ruthlessly repeats. Relationships falter and fall apart. You unconsciously sabotage authentic connection because true intimacy demands the presence you've been avoiding. You can't sit with discomfort, so you swipe. You can't deal with the quietude of your own heart, so you scroll. You can't face yourself, your own reality, so you compulsively chase someone else's body, someone else's image. But what you often never realize, perhaps until years have passed, is that this pattern of misdirected desire doesn't just keep you from finding genuine love with another person. More fundamentally, it keeps you from truly becoming you. It quietly, systematically robs you of your creative energy, of your capacity for sustained attention, of your spiritual depth, of your inner clarity. And the longer it continues, the more you are left with that chilling question echoing in the void. Why don't I feel anything real anymore? That right there is the ultimate consequence. Not some external shame, not hellfire, not cosmic punishment, but numbness, a deep, pervasive inability to feel. And Jung would argue with profound conviction that numbness is often far worse than pain. Because when you are numb, you stop evolving. You stop listening to the quiet whispers of your soul. You stop hearing the voice inside you that knows that whispers, "This isn't why I came here. This isn't who I was meant to be." You do not need to hate yourself to heal from this. You do not need to violently repress the energy of desire itself. You just need to find the courage to ask that one essential question. What is this intense craving, this potent energy truly trying to teach me about me? Carl Jung never told you to kill the fire of desire. He told you to understand it. Because the powerful fire of lust, when ignored, denied, or mindlessly indulged, becomes a destructive addiction. But when courageously faced, consciously understood, and integrated, that very same fire becomes a catalyst for profound transformation. And that sacred journey back to yourself doesn't begin by closing your eyes to the uncomfortable truth. It begins by finally, terrifyingly opening them. No more lying to yourself. No more blaming external circumstances or other people. No more defaulting to the resigned declaration, "This is just how I am." You are not fundamentally broken. You are simply lost. And you have been using the pursuit of lust as an unconscious way to avoid looking at the map. But the map was never outside of you. It was never located in her body, never contained within that video, never found in the next message, the next app, the next fleeting escape. The map, your true guide home, was always, always your own soul. So how do you begin this journey back? Step 1 is simple, but requires immense courage. You stay. Not with her, not with them. You stay with you. You stay present in your own physical body. You stay with the uncomfortable ache, the restlessness, the churning energy. You stay through the intense wave of craving without automatically feeding it. At first, this will feel almost impossible. You will shake. Your fingers will itch to scroll. Every fiber of your being will scream for the familiar escape. But if you can just breathe through it, stay present with the sensation for just one moment longer than you usually do, you might begin to hear something new. Silence. Not the dead, numb kind, but a sacred, pregnant silence. And in that stillness, A quiet voice may whisper from the depths of your being, "I miss you." That is the voice of the part of you you left behind perhaps long ago. The voice of the boy who learned he had to earn love through performance and achievement. The voice of the soul who mistook fleeting physical touch for deep, enduring truth. The voice of the man who forgot that his intense craving was not inherently evil, just unmet, a signpost pointing inward. This is the essence of Carl Jung Shadow Work. You don't destroy your shadow, you integrate it. You sit with it. You learn from it. You sit with them. You learn from them. You bravely bring them back into the light of consciousness, incorporating them into a larger, more whole sense of self. So what does that look like in practice? It looks like small, deliberate acts of coming home. You start writing again, not necessarily to impress anyone, but simply to feel, to process, to express the landscape of your inner world. You create something, anything, not for external validation, but as a way to release energy and connect with your inner spark. You sit in nature, allowing the simple presence of the world to ground you. You let yourself feel emotions fully, even the uncomfortable ones, maybe allowing yourself to cry when the grief surfaces. You consciously breathe into your chest, into your gut, and ask with genuine curiosity, what do I actually need or want right now, beneath the noise? And you listen, truly listen, not just once, but make it a daily practice, a sacred relationship with your own soul. Because healing this pattern of misdirected desire isn't a one-time fix. It is a continuous unfolding relationship with the deepest parts of yourself. And over time, consistently showing up in this way, the external cravings begin to lose their desperate grip. Not necessarily because they disappear entirely, but because you no longer fear them. You learn to welcome the heat of desire. You thank the craving for showing you where the unintegrated parts reside. And you finally hear what that powerful energy is truly saying beneath the surface. I want love. I want beauty. I want meaning. I want connection. I want me. You don't need to shame yourself any longer. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to come home. Because when you courageously reclaim your anima, your inner feminine principle, your capacity for feeling intuition and connection, you no longer desperately chase it outside yourself. You begin to simply live it. You feel your emotions authentically. You honor your own inner softness, your vulnerability as a source of strength. And you become magnetic, not because you are performing or chasing, but because you are finally becoming whole. And then, paradoxically, when someone authentic does eventually come along, you don't approach them from a place of desperate need. You don't need to possess them to feel complete. You don't need them to be your rescuer. You don't need them to complete the essential parts of you that you abandoned, because you have already begun the sacred work of reclaiming those parts yourself. In the quiet stillness, in the uncomfortable darkness, in the sacred inner space that empty lust could never reach. But your soul always could. So if anything in this message resonated, if it pricked something awake inside you, know that you have already begun the journey back. Sit with these words, listen to them again if you need to, and perhaps take a moment to pause, feel, and tell me in the comments below, what have you really been craving all along? If this message spoke to your own shadow, to the parts of you yearning for integration, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and perhaps dropping a super thanks. It truly helps keep this space alive and allows us to continue exploring these vital, often unspoken truths. And remember this always. You were never truly addicted to her or to any specific external person or image. You were all along addicted to the feeling of being whole. And now the time has come to bravely give that feeling back to yourself.